This is the Live Well and Thrive podcast, hosted by Michael Torsha, health and wellness expert. It's time to shape up, America.
Hi, this is Mike Torsha, and welcome to Live Well and Thrive. I have a very special friend and guest today. Her name is Regina LaFrance, and she has written this book, Shayla. And has one hell of a journey she's going to share with you. But what I got to say about her is that I had some of the toughest people in the world on this show, from head of the Hells Angels to some of the toughest MMA fighters. But this woman is tougher than any man I know. When you hear about her journey and what horrific things that she went through as a 10-year-old girl and for her whole life, what she had to keep inside of her, you're going to be so touched. Regina, thank you for coming on the show, and I really appreciate you being here. And I want you to talk about your journey, but most of all, why you felt it was important to write this book to help other people that have gone such horrible, abusive, sexual. I mean, I don't want to get into the detail, but I've gone through such abuse and such a horrible experience. But you are so full of energy and life. And I noticed you working out. You sent me pictures of you working out in the gym, and I'm sure probably bodybuilding has helped you keep your head together and your life in order too. So please share your story with my audience.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for being here. It's an honor to be here today and to share my story with your audience. Now I'm living my life the way that I want and the way that I was intended to live my life, probably always. But unfortunately, when I was 10 years old, my world was shattered. I had a wonderful childhood from the age that I can remember, 6 to 9. My father and I were always outside farming, and my nickname was Ladybug. When I was 10 years old, I unfortunately had a horrific experience with someone who was a person of power in our village, and he began to molest me when I was attending music lessons. And then when I was 10, that started at 9 years old. When I was 10 years old, the unthinkable happened. He violated me sexually and physically. And then what he did after the fact is even worse, and it's something that stayed with me forever. It defined who I was through my teenage years, my 20s, 30s, and 40s. He told me the night that he violated me that I was a cockroach, that I was no ladybug, and that I was stupid and ugly, and that's why I was picked to suffer the way that I suffered that night. He basically left me to die that night. When I was 55 years old, well, let me back up. I lived with that inside of my being. It defined who I become. I became a very defiant young lady at a very young age. I didn't want to obey the rules and go to church anymore, and I didn't care about farming with my father anymore. And when I was 18, my father actually went to him for advice on what to do with me, and he suggested that my father would send me abroad. And him and my father not knowing anything that had happened, they planned for me to move to the United States, and I ended up going to Boston at the age of 18 years old and stayed there for 37 years. And I've always had a good life in terms of a professional life. I went to college, I had good jobs, I did well in life, but not personally. My idea of what I thought of myself was very low. And I had self-doubt for 37 years. I had self-doubt and just depressed and anxiety-ridden and didn't like who I was. I have a scar here on my lip of something that happened to me after the fact. After he violated me, he violated me even more then. And when I looked in the mirror, that's all I could see was that scar for all those years. When I was 55 years old, I witnessed a little girl ask her mother not to make her go to summer camp that year. And when I heard the little girl ask her mother not to make her go, I had a vivid memory of me asking my mother not to make me go to music lessons. And that very moment in 2015, I said to myself, this child is in danger and this child needs help. Her mom is not realizing why this child doesn't want to go. That very night, I called on my best friend and I told my best friend my secret. And that was the first time that I told someone my secret.
So your parents never knew.
Never.
Are they passed away now?
Yes.
And how do you feel? Do you feel that that was best not to share with them what had happened to you?
Well, for many years, I believed that they would not believe me. And then as my parents got older, I didn't want to shame them.
Right, right.
And I never wanted my mother to feel bad that it happened, that she made me go. So I never told her. My mom passed away in 2016.
Oh, sorry.
And when she did, my father had passed away earlier. When she did, and all this happened, I witnessed the child being in distress. I told my best friend, and my best friend said, you got to start today.
So you decided, I need to write a book.
Yes.
So whatever happened to this disgusting piece of
Nothing.
crap? Is he still alive?
He passed away in 2013. He was the village priest. He was the priest of the people.
Oh, so they had trust because he's the village priest.
Yes.
And they felt you were safe. He's going to teach you music.
Yes.
And then did you ever do research later on? Did he have a violent past?
He had a past with women, yes.
Okay.
Everyone in the village knew.
And then you also told me that you didn't tell your husband to...
That's right.
So how did he take it?
Shocked. He was very shocked. He felt very badly for me, but he's very proud of me for being strong now to tell my story and why I want to tell my story.
Well, yeah, because, it had to be something, the fact that you married him, and I guess he figured he got to know you, but to have something back. But I'm sure he understands why
Yes.
he didn't want to open that up, because, I know what it's like is...
Shame.
Shame, but also you relive the horror.
Yes.
Every time you tell it, many times I have friends where they talk about, their girlfriend or their wife or husband cheating on them. And I go, but do you realize every time you share that story, you relive that
Yes.
horrible experience. You also secrete those cortisol hormones, which are the bad hormones, which create depression.
Yes.
So you're feeding your depression
That's right.
fuel, but as thinking about it now, there must be something very, very special about you to be able and be strong enough from being a 10-year-old child to the age of 55 and never share that with anybody.
I grew up in an environment where what happens in this house stays in this house.
Right.
You just be quiet and eat whatever I made for dinner and that's it. What you just don't, when growing up in the 60s in Portugal, maybe here as well, I'm not sure, what happens in that house stays in that house, and you don't ask questions and you don't speak about emotions and you don't have a voice, really.
So on top of being violently violated, you got pregnant
Yes.
at 10.
Yes.
And how long were you pregnant for?
Probably 2 months. When this happened, I was staying at his house for the summer vacation. He
So you had to live with the guy while and being subjected?
with his mother, with him and his mother, but
They-
he only attacked me that one time. His mother cared for me after the attack, and his mother made sure that he never touched me again.
But what did the mother say to you? Did she apologize for him? Did she try to comfort you? What?
Yeah, she tried to comfort me and help me, and she promised me it would never happen again. When she realized that I was pregnant, I was throwing up and not feeling well and lethargic all the time, she called on a neighbor, on someone she knew, and the lady came to the house and performed an abortion on me at their house. And once the lady did that with a coat hanger, she said, I broke her water, now you have to wait. That very night, his mother gave me a small wooden box, and told me to carry the box. And he took me to the cemetery and ordered me to dig a hole and put the box inside the hole and then squat over the hole and abort into the box. And then after that, he told me to cover the box with the dirt.
But he had you dig the hole
Hmm.
and bury your baby? He's one
Just-
sadistic piece of shit.
Yes. And when I was very weak and crying and screaming, he told me to be quiet, and I told him I hated him, and then that's when he came over me and slapped me, and I fell and I cut my lip on the edge of the shovel. And then he told me to put the shovel away, and then he took me back to his house, and his mother cared for me again, and about a week later, she told me to go home. It was time to go back to school, so my parents asked me if I was a good girl during the time, and they asked him if I was a good girl during that time, and he said yes. And his mother promised me it would never happen again.
Wow, but mentally and emotionally, you were very strong at 10 years old.
I really believe that it was more powerful than me. It was more like a divine power that kept me in and out, in and out. I remember.
Do you still have nightmares about this?
I have nightmares all the time, but it's more, my nightmares are more about not being able to get out of a situation, or not being able to reach somebody, or not being able to get to a place on time, or have my phone in my hand and not be able to dial out. My nightmares are always like that.
So I guess you would consider that post-traumatic syndrome,
Yes,
correct?
definitely.
And are you getting help for that?
I had help over the years. I had so many therapists, but once they got to the point where they would really want to dig, I would never return.
Yeah.
So what I've done, and since 2015, I've done the I am affirmations. I am wonderful. I am smart. I am a ladybug. I am love. And I began to learn to love who I was, or who I am now. And I realized that I didn't know how to love, and I also didn't know how to be loved. When someone told me they loved me, I would just be like, yeah, right. Nobody loves me.
And the book is called Shayla. So what's the title?
So Shayla is a name I like for a woman. So she's the character in the book. And I started my book at the night at the cemetery. And I wanted everyone to know what happened to me. And this, we're going back to 2015. I was very raw still at the time, and I wanted everyone to know. But the good news is that now I would never start my book there. I would start my book with what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Because I went to the mirror and I told myself who I am, who I was when I was 6 and 7 and 8 years old. I'm still that same person. And I had to train myself to love who I am. And I realized that all the years that I suffered, I call it running red lights and leaving accidents behind.
Yeah, wow.
If something I didn't like the way something went, whether there was a job or a relationship, I was out. But now it's different, because now I like who I am, and I understood what happened all those years was just me not loving who I was, not knowing who I was. And I've just recently created my nonprofit foundation called the Ladybug Movement. And I want to, so 2 things. One, and that's why I wrote the book, to create awareness to keep children safe. When a child says, "Mommy, Daddy, please don't make me go," we have to stop everything and find out why that child doesn't want to go. Because children love to go anywhere. And that's why we have to tell them not to go with strangers, because they're so innocent. They'll go with anyone that is going to tell them we're going to play or whatever. So if a child doesn't want to go, we know that's because there's a reason. So that was my main reason. So when I wrote my book, I wanted to create awareness, but then I realized my inner child was still hurting. I was still stuck there at that night at the cemetery. And I grew up to be a very depressed and negative person. So I had to learn how to go and nurture that child. And I discovered the healing. I totally 100% retired my victim badge. I am not even close to wearing that badge ever again.
And now bodybuilding, has that helped you? Is that been an
Yes.
outlet?
Yes.
The physical exercise, seeing the body get firm in better
Yes.
shape, has that helped give you more confidence
Yes.
and more love for yourself?
Yes. Just 2 years ago, I was all skin and bone. And I begun going to the gym, and I just go and do my thing, and I just started seeing this body develop into a very
You look
fit.
fantastic.
Thank you.
The other day you sent me a picture of you doing the pull down.
Yes.
Your back was chiseled.
Yes.
And your arms and shoulders are so
Yes.
sculpted. I think the bodybuilding builds the body, the mind, the soul,
Yes.
and most of all, you develop this self-love. You see the
Right.
body responding. You see how when you eat healthy and you get rest, you feel better overall. And
Right.
when you go out in public, you just have this euphoric feeling you can
Confidence.
conquer the world.
That's right.
Because you feel empowered from exercise. That's why when we talked about coming on, I love the fact that you're into bodybuilding.
Yes.
And that this is also the outlet to get things off of your mind, where it's
That's
all
right.
about goodness and positivity instead of the negativity that you've been locking up into your body.
That's
is
right.
absorbing all this toxic energy. Because, we get exposed to toxins. How? By what we touch, what we smell, what we hear, and what we see.
That's right.
And you've had all those
Yes.
in one, right?
Yes.
But you've come to a point where now you're enjoying the journey and you're free of that victim feeling.
Yes.
And now you're paying it forward to help other women
Yes.
that have been violently abused sexually, which is a beautiful thing. I know you were recently, in the Bahamas or something,
Yes.
lecturing?
Yes,
Good
I
for
went
you.
on a mission trip with another nonprofit established foundation to promote emotional freedom. I spoke at the Women's Convention there to tell them and show them that it is possible. Healing is possible. We have to identify what makes you sad. Why are you in this situation? Why do you allow people to take advantage of you? Why can't you speak up? Because when I was younger and all through my 20s and 30s and 40s, I made noise, but that's all there was noise. I would talk and try to defend myself, and all people heard was noise. So I learned to speak what you mean and mean what you speak, and speak soft.
And how did you meet your husband?
I met my husband in 2009 through a friend, and we've been together ever since.
What's he like?
He's amazing. He's very military. He was 30 years in the military, 33 years in the fire department, so he's very structured, very disciplined. He kind of likes the fact that I'm more carefree because we balance each other out.
Yin and yang, yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. That's great.
Yes.
And how long you been married?
We've been married 7 years.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes, he's my rock.
And he's been 100% supportive of you.
Yes, very.
Wow.
He's my number one. He's my rock. He's my priority in life. And then second is myself, my discipline. Like going to the gym or cooking healthy meals or creating the foundation. I just started my bachelor's program with Southern New Hampshire University for psychology. So he is
Wow.
super supportive on that because I want to learn how to understand people. I want to be able to say, I understand it and I got it. Because I want to create awareness to keep children safe, especially for parents or people raising children that are trauma victims. They may or may not know that that child is crying out for help because they were a victim themselves.
Well, but also, too, I mean, people hear your story, they're going to go in the bedroom pick their child up and hug them.
Yes.
Because sometimes parents shut them out because they just think they're whining, complaining.
That's right.
And they're stressed out and having a bad day. Oh, no, but this is good for you. Well, maybe that's a cry for help.
Yes.
Maybe there's more to it. When I was 8 years old, I lived on a farm. We had this very long driveway. And then the main road, was a 2-lane road. People would drive pretty fast, even though it was 30-mile-an-hour lanes. The mailbox was there. So my father would tell me, go get the mail. So I remember, going out to the very end and getting the mail out of the mailbox. And this black, like, a kind of old, like, looked like an Oldsmobile. And I just remember the passenger door opening. And I saw a guy with a hat and a black shirt. He goes, hey, kid, I have hot chocolate chip cookies. Do you like chocolate chip cookies? And I had this bad vibe about him.
Mm-hmm.
I said, no, thank you. He goes, no. And he had a bag, and he was shaking them. He goes, why don't you come over here? I'll give you some cookies. I said, no. And then I ran down, told my father, he was in the kitchen. My father grabbed the baseball bat out of the closet.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw my father run that fast. He was like 6'2". He's about 300 pounds, big Italian man. And all I saw that guy pull the door and take off. That son of a bitch. He said, don't you ever get the mail again. I'll get the mail. Don't you talk to anybody
That's
like
right.
that. No, right? But I remember I could have been like, what happened to you?
Right.
I was just a little kid. But I had this sense that don't do it, you
Right.
know? And so when you're sharing with me, I'm like, God, this book, your story, could help other kids that
Yes.
mainly, like, look at the sex trafficking, look at the children that have been sexually abused, killed,
That's right.
You're going to be saving people's lives.
Yes.
But you got to wake these parents up, and you got to pay attention to your kid.
That's right.
I mean, how does, like, for instance, when we had all these shootings in these schools, how do you not know your kid is messed up? Come on.
Right.
You
That's
didn't see
right.
the sign. That's because you're so distracted.
That's right.
You're not paying attention. He's probably in his room doing drugs or playing these sadistic video games.
Right.
And creating this sickness, toxic thinking in his brain. And you don't know
That's right.
that your son took an assault rifle and murdered 9 children and 2 teachers.
Right.
Okay? I mean, like, for instance, like when these dogs, some of the brand, I don't want to say what breed, but certain dogs have killed people or maimed them or ate part of their hand. How do you not know
That's right.
your dogs are dangerous? I said years ago, I've had Rottweilers, Dobermans, German Shepherds, and Rotties. I know if my dog is vicious or not.
Right.
And if it has a tendency to be aggressive, I make sure they're never getting out of the house except for when I walk them. But for people to think that they can just not be responsible, that's why I like when someone's dog, they kill someone or maim a child, you're responsible.
That's right.
Because you had this dog, you knew it was a violent dog, you let it out, and it attacked someone, you are now taking responsibility. And I notice now they're making people responsible, like that kid that shot up
That's
in Georgia.
right. The father is
father.
in jail.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to be held responsible. That's why your book is not just for the victims, but it's also for parents to be aware of what your child's signs are. The signs are there,
That's right.
and that's why you need to be able to realize that you need to make sure you're paying attention to your child, whatever age it is, And I'm so proud of you for writing this book and your foundation, what you're doing. I mean, you're doing all this beautiful work.
Thank you.
And I'm so glad you have a wonderful man in your life.
Yes.
And is it true that you plan to do a movie? Did you work on a script?
Yes. So I would like my book to become a movie. And the funny thing is, when I first wrote the book, I wanted to be all about what happened to me. And now that all this healing has taken place, I want my movie to be about what I'm doing. and inspire
Oh my
people.
God. Yes. Yes.
Inspire people that are that have suffered, that they too can do the same. So my movie, I wanted to start with that night at the cemetery, and now, after I feel that I can wear my triumph badge, I want my movie to start with me gifting a bike to a child that never had a bike before.
Wow, that's beautiful.
And I want my movie to start with me educating people with signs of a child being in distress. And then we can touch, of course, on what happened, and people can read the book if they want details. We're gonna go back and forth and show the people what happened to me and why I lived a life of depression for 37 years, almost 40 years. But then end again with what I'm doing now, because that's what I want. I want everyone to listen to me or read my book to know that they too can heal. You have to go to the mirror and you have to tell yourself, I am enough.
Well,
And
you know, the fact that you've gone through this, you can help anybody out with any
Yes.
kind of sort of depression.
men and women.
Right? So you don't have to make it for people that are just sexually abused.
That's right.
What I love about the movie concept is you open it up with a horrific opening, and the whole film is not reliving it, but how you take this journey to give back and help others.
Yes.
So it's not, because otherwise people can't watch 2 hours of a movie that's showing the whole reenactment.
Right.
They can't. But it can open up shocking and then show what you went through, but how you still survived
Yes.
and how powerful you were, but then you didn't get help to a certain period of time.
Yes.
And then when you wrote the book, your life changed, and now you're traveling around the world and giving back to society. It's a beautiful way to
Because
give back.
yes, ultimately, when you're a survivor of trauma, child trauma, when you reach a certain age and you don't like the way your life is going, at that point, you need to accept what happened and take responsibility for what you want to be.
Yeah.
You cannot blame anyone. Let's say for me it was 55 years old. You cannot blame the past anymore now, because I decided to make a better life for me and to heal. And one thing too that I want to say is you never really heal completely. You'll always have triggers. There will always be comments and there will always be memories that kind of want to pull you back to where you were, but you need to create awareness to know those triggers, to recognize when those triggers arrive, because the triggers is what get you back, and you can't go back because you retired your victim badge. Now you have your triumph badge. That's the badge that you wear now.
Well, you know, that's so beautiful. Well said. I remember when I was an obese child. I was 14 years old. I was over 50 pounds overweight, and how horrible I felt. I felt
Yes.
ugly, unattractive. I constantly would hear kids call me names, Pugly,
Yes.
Porky Pig,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. So as I evolved as a bodybuilder and I started winning these championships, and I'd win and people would run up to the stage. I remember this one kid, I won the Teenage Miss New York State. He goes, Mike, can I have your autograph? And he hit the program. I said, really? You want my autograph? He goes, yeah. And how did you build such an incredible body? I wish I could look like that someday. And I just turned to him and I said, a lot of aggravation.
Yes.
That was but it was true.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people put me down, and I had to turn it around, the lemons and the lemonade.
Right.
And I remember for a very long time, even in my 20s, sometimes I'd go out and I had really long hair and a shredded 28-inch waist, 19-inch arms, and massive chest. And I was so insecure to talk to women.
Right.
Because I felt like that fat little boy. Because I had that emotional scarring.
That's right.
That I had to break loose. And then one day, I just had this girl go, come with me. She went in the bathroom. She goes, look at this body.
Right.
You don't look like the average
mirror.
guy out there. So stop it.
Right.
Stop it, right? And she slapped me in the face. She's an Italian girl. You know, just with a gentle, right?
Right, right.
So stop it. And then she goes, whenever you feel that way, go in the bathroom and look in the mirror.
That's right.
And that's what I would do. And then eventually I dissipated that feeling because you form neural pathways.
That's right.
All you have to do is something is for actually 3 weeks. It takes 21 days to form new
right.
pathways. So I did it repeatedly, like if I was training a bicep or tricep, whatever it is, and it never came back. But I had to have someone one day slap me in
That's
the face
right.
and go, "What are you, crazy? Look at you. You're in great shape. You're a good-looking man. You're not that fat kid anymore, so stop it."
Right.
And it was a revelation, They're like, wow, right, why? And I go to automatic pilot. So if I ever felt like, when I was auditioning for things, it's okay. They didn't like my look. Man, maybe I wasn't tall enough. Maybe I wanted a guy with blonde hair, whatever. I never took it as was wrong with me.
Right.
And then I steamrolled over any kind of negative thought. So your steps that are in the book and what you're sharing is exactly what everybody needs. Because we all at times have our moments where not feeling that confident.
Right.
So I think your self-help book is amazing. So where can they get your book?
We can get the book on Amazon, Shayla by Regina LaFrance, or my website, lafrancemedia.com. You can buy it, and if you buy it on my website, you can have it signed by me and shipped by me. And
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then let me know how it goes when you get the script done. I'll see if I could present it to some companies that might want to
Yes,
make the movie for
definitely.
you. And make sure it's done right.
Yes, of course.
Because your story's got to be told.
That's right.
And thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so much. And I just want to leave one more thing. Just this, it's never a child's fault. So if you're suffering of something that happened to you when you were a child, remember, you are worthy, and it's never a child's fault. You can heal. You'll be okay if you follow my steps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you for watching. You need to forward this episode, share it with your friends, because it could prevent a child or even an adult from being abused sexually or just being abused by some cruel person in your neighborhood, or the last person you expect could be the one that's doing it. So please, thank you for watching. I want you to go out and get this book, and please subscribe and share this episode. It could change your life and your friend's life forever. Thank you.